Hey all civilian Jeep viewers, this is Jake here, and today I've got something pretty neat behind me. It's something that I picked up not too long ago, and you might recognize it. It's actually well known in the Jeep community. It's called Postal. It's a 1982 right-hand drive DJ5. DJ stands for dispatcher Jeep. As you guys know, CJ stands for civilian Jeep. Well, these were government issued DJs, which is the dispatcher Jeep. And this is no 1982 dispatcher Jeep. This thing is wild. I mean, it's had tons of customization done to it, but instead of me rambling on, let's just dive right into it. Let me show you everything about this 1982 DJ5. Real quick, a little history on this Jeep. This Jeep was built by Chad Edmondson in North Carolina. He actually had a whole forum on this build process on NC 4x4. If you go on Google and type in Postal NC 4x4, it's one of the first threads that pops up. And I believe it's 38 pages or so of this complete build process. So I'm gonna try to show you everything that I know about this Jeep, but if you want to know the nitty gritty, that's where you would find everything about Postal. But however, he started the build process, I believe, around 2013. In 2013, he started it, and around 2016, he had a lot of the stuff lined out to where it was featured in Crawl magazine. It was in the November issue, I believe that's issue number 61. And then that's right before it got issued into the Crawl magazine is when I started seeing it on the forums and Instagram, and it just started really becoming popular in the Jeep community. And I've always drooled over this Jeep. I didn't think I would ever own it, but here we are today. He actually put it up for sale, Chad did, in 2020, and a realtor ended up buying it. I seen it back then, but I financially wasn't in the place to buy it, so I didn't. But however, the realtor put it back up for sale a few years later, and here we are. I've bought it, and I hope to get quite a bit of use and enjoyment out of it. However, I do have a newborn on the way, so we're gonna see how long I actually own this Jeep, because it is a two-seater, and my wife and I are already maxing out the seating capacity right now. But hopefully I get to keep it for a while. We'll just have to see what life throws at me. But anyway, let's get into the body of this Jeep. Now, one of the first things you might notice is this is a DJ5 front grille. Now, the grille is actually 5 slots instead of 7 slots that you would see on like a civilian Jeep. That's one of the telltale signs that you're looking at a dispatcher Jeep, is the grille. Now, it shares a lot of similar characteristics as the old CJs or the early CJ5s. Now, pre-73, I believe, they had the short hood. This is one of the short hoods like you would find on an early CJ5. It does have a poison spider hood louver to get some of the air ventilate around the engine bay to help with the LS, but oh, that's another thing. It does have an LS, but I'll talk about that a little later. However, as you can see, there isn't any doors on this. Now, the doors were the original sliding doors, and they couldn't be used because if you were to slide this door back, it would hit the rear tire, given that these are a lot bigger tires than factory, and the width of that Curry 60 pushes it well out past the body line. However, you can see on the rear that it is one of the original style tailgates. It even has Postal stenciled in right there with Jeep right below it, and EFO for Edmondson Off-Road Fab, the guy that built it. However, it isn't the original gate. The original gate said AM General on the back of it, but the Jeep one is a lot cooler. Now on the body, the lines right here, where the armor is all custom built. And what I was trying to say earlier is I really like the lines, how he's got everything just flowing in. For this to be a custom built Jeep with custom built armor, Chad did a great job. Now you can see the rear armor there just flows right into the rock slider, and it's double. You got the actual rock slider, and then you got below it an actual slider that ties into the frame. And I mean, that is some heavy duty stuff right there. Now, the fender is the whole flare and fender built into one. It's kind of like the short, narrow fenders that you see on YJs and TJs, even some JKs, almost like the metal cloak style where it hugs the actual hood. But it doesn't have inner fenders right now. I plan on adding some of those just to keep some of the grime out of the engine bay. But as far as body-wise, there's not a whole lot going on besides just some of the armor that's been added. All windshield glass has been replaced in this Jeep. The glass is in great shape all around. I'm not going to go into the interior yet. I'll save that for here in a minute. I just want to give you a walk around of what the actual body looks like on this Jeep. Let's dive into the suspension on this Jeep. The Jeep is riding on 37 1250 R17 Goodyear Wranglers. That's a pretty big tire for a dispatcher Jeep. That's comparable to like a 40 or 42 on a JK nowadays. However, when you go down and look at the axle, this is a high pinion 44 out of a Ford. It's got a custom diff cover that's been welded, and that's a lot of beef right there. And you can see the drag link to the custom steering box going to the knuckle over there, and then the tie rod. All that has been custom made as well. Now the springs are YJ springs. They're 1.5 inches, and they flex really, really well. Now the springs have been outboarded, as you can see, outboarded and reversed. Same for the rear. The rear has also been outboarded and reversed. It helped get the right perch mounting location for the axles. And right there is the rear bracket tied into the bumper. It does have a hitch, and the rear is one of my favorites. This is a Curry. This is the Extreme 60. It's the high pinion to help get the driveline angle right for the drive shaft. You can see the drive shaft right there. As you can see, the Curry 60 here has a truss running across the top of it. It also has disc brakes front and rear. There's those YJ springs again. Bilstein shocks front and rear. Overall, just a very clean build. Very nice. The cage has been tied into the frame. A lot of custom work. It has been stretched. Front and rear both have been stretched. Feels a lot more stable on the road than a typical early model CJ5 or a DJ5. No rust on the frame. No rust on this whole Jeep. Any rust that this Jeep had been cut out and re-welded. There's the steering box. Since we're talking about suspension, I'll go ahead and mention the steering box. Custom drag link down to the, or custom pitman arm, I meant to say, down to the drag link. Moving on to the drive line, this is a 5.3 LS. This is the LM7. This was out of a 2000 Silverado, a 2500. Now this LS is mated to an SM465, which is a heavy duty, really 3 usable speeds on the road, but it does have the granny gear to make it a 4-speed. And the SM465, I also have that in the CJ7, and it's a beast. As you can see, well, it's kind of hard to see with all the skid plates. This thing does have tons of skids. This is the MP231. The MP231 does have the HD, the heavy duty kit inside of there, a bigger chain to be able to handle the power of this Jeep. I believe this is the Corvette brake system. Don't quote me on that though, I can't remember, but this is manual brakes. Couldn't fit a booster there because of the steering shaft. All the steering is custom shaft wise. Some more views of the engine going down to your coolant reservoir bottle, your Coors Light. Thankfully it's not Bud Light. Your Optima red top battery. I'm gonna clean some of this wiring up. This wiring right here, this big jumbled up mess, is just for some of the rock lights that it has. So that needs to be taken care of. So I'm gonna put probably a switch panel system in this Jeep, clean some wiring up, and make it look a little better on that end. However, let's go back to the actual driveline. So like I said, LM7 LS, SM465, MP231, and custom length drive shafts, front and rear. Going to the inside of the Jeep, you can see this is the passenger side on a typical vehicle. It is right-hand drive, like the original Postal Jeep would be. It has a removable steering wheel, and that really helps when you try to get in and out, because it is a tight fit between the Corbo seats. It's got PRP harnesses, full custom cage all throughout. If I had to roll any of my Jeeps, this one 100% would be the one that I would feel the safest in. It has tons of bracing on the cage, and this cage is tied into the frame. Super stout. The seats are bolted to the cage. This is full-blown rock crawler right here. See the stick for the SM465. Here's the MP231. Everything works great. You can see the gauges over here. Nice looking, classy gauges. You can see some of the switches here for spotlight, rock light. It does have reverse backup cubes, which is nice that you can turn on. Has the horn, wipers. The wipers do work. Has rear view mirrors to make it legal on the road. This thing, you can do 60 mile an hour down the road just fine in this. I wouldn't say it's a Cadillac by any means, but this is a rock crawler. And with that 5.3, it will scoot. This thing has tons of power. And overall, I mean, this is just a bad Jeep, like bad. I love it. Here's the door striker for the CJ7. Doors that I have that I mentioned earlier. Let's go ahead and open up the back. Here's just a little mail bag that I added there. Thought that was cool. Come with my mail outfit that I'm wearing. Have some letters in here. So I just hung that off the back of this custom rack. This rack does flip up if you want to put bigger things in the rear here. This is an RCI fuel tank. This is an RCI fuel tank for the rear. You got a jerry can. This is obviously blue as kerosene, but blue matches the Jeep, so just put gas in it. Got bar tack with a fire extinguisher. Can't forget the fan. That is one of the most classic things of a Postal Jeep is you got to have your fan. So it's got the fan in there, no rust, everything's in great shape with the body. Let me go around to the passenger side, which on any vehicle normally would be the driver's side. You can see the Crawl magazine right there, sticker. This is just my worn bag that I hang off the dash. Another shot of the Corbeau seats, PRP harness. Another Crawl sticker back here. I think this one's really cool. The floorboard was custom fabricated to be able to fit the SM465 and to be able to shift your MP231. I'd say some of you are probably curious to hear this thing, and let me just tell you, it is loud. It sounds like a monster. Now the exhaust on this thing is just from the headers, goes back to the catalytic converters, does have all the factory catalytic converters, so there isn't a check engine light on this Jeep. However, after the catalytic converters, it just dumps down past the transfer case. But one annoyance of this Jeep is the Walboro fuel pump. It's an external pump. It's kind of loud, and I thought something might have been wrong with the pump, so I did change it out with another Walboro unit, and it's just as loud. So I've talked to tons of people, and they've told me that's just the way the external fuel pumps are. However, let's just go ahead and start this Jeep up and let you hear it. That is crazy. I love to listen to this thing. Can't beat fuel injection either. My CJ7, just like this morning, kind of cold outside, went to get in it, drove it to town, and it is just the night and day difference between carbureted and fuel injection, especially in the colder months. Now that is just a quick overview of this Jeep. I could go on and on about it. If there's anything else you would like to know, put it down in the comments and I'll try to answer it to the best of my ability. But make sure you check out NC4x4 and type in Gone Postal. That's really where the whole spreadsheet of, or the forum of everything that's been done to this Jeep is in NC4x4. So go ahead and check that out. If you're wondering if there's anything I'm gonna do to it, I mean, this Jeep is pretty much perfect the way it is. It doesn't leak, which is surprising. It doesn't leak any fluids. It's absolutely a monster. It hauls the mail, no pun intended. So there is one thing though that I will show you that I would like to fix. The realtor went off-road in it and he did mess the traction bar up in the rear. So the traction bar is not on it. I've ordered a traction bar weldable kit off Rough Stuff, and I plan on putting the traction bar Back on the axle to help with any type of axle wrap with the leaf spring, because the leaf springs are soft. They're soft for flexing. This thing does ride pretty well and flexes great off-road. And I'm sure you guys have heard the fuel pump. I'm going to try to get some type of wrap and wrap the fuel pump up and try to reduce the noise a little bit. It is a little on the louder side, but I've tried multiple pumps like stated, and they're all just as loud. So I guess that's just the external fuel pump producing the amount of pressure it needs to run the fuel injection. However, like I said, if you want to know anything else about this Jeep, make sure to leave me a comment below. Hope you liked this video. I look forward to doing more videos on this Jeep. And you know, when it comes to Jeeps, keep it classy.